Let's take a look at how we can use Illustrator to create a graph. So if you have an upcoming sales presentation, look no further. So what we have here, if you look over here, is this icon that we can hold down to see that we have a whole bunch of different styles that we can use to create our graph. From the column graph to a bar graph, area, scatter, pie, and even radar. Let's go ahead and create a bar graph. Now, you can do this in one of two ways. If you know exactly the dimensions you want, you can click anywhere in your document like so, and then you can enter the pixels that you need for your graph. Or what you could do is, with this tool still selected, simply drag an area like so, let go of the mouse, and now you'll have your starting point. What we have here are the fields that we use to enter the data for our graph. The first thing I'm going to enter is a label. For example, what is it I'm trying to keep track of or show progress of. So let's make believe we have a movie store and we're going to track how many titles we sell of different genres. So I'll go ahead and type fantasy. All right, if you misspell it, don't worry, click on it again and go back in the field and simply change the spelling. I'll go ahead and put horror. And I'm tabbing over, by the way. So you hit the tab key, move over, we'll put comedy, tab key, and sci-fi, tab key. So we have four different labels here. To enter numerical values, I'm going to click underneath the first one, and let's say that this month we sold or we rented 35 fantasy. Once again, tab over. We sold or rented, let's see, 56 horror. And for comedies, maybe 40. And for sci-fi, 45. Now, if we want to accept this information, you can click right here on the little check mark. And now I can go ahead and close this box, and we have our values. We have our sci-fi, comedy, horror, and fantasy. And if you really want to customize this further, feel free to color these. So I'm going to grab my direct selection tool. All right, so here is the fantasy, which is this box here, which is the black one. I'll go ahead and change this one to orange. And I'll click over here and do the same thing. Make this orange. For horror, I'll make this box red. And this is the horror box. We'll make this guy red. Here's our comedy. We'll make this one green. And that one as well. And we have our sci-fi, which we'll make blue. Alright, so now we have a graph. Now, what if you want to modify this graph? Well, you could do several things. You can always go to your layers if you wanted to, and add a layer in the background and put a color. So for now, I'm temporarily going to lock the layer that has the graph on it. And I'm going to grab a rectangle and just draw it to the size of the document. Now go ahead and give it a gradient. Alright, something like this. Then I can simply drag this layer underneath the graph and just add a little bit more visual interest to it. Now, of course, the type is now gone, but you can always come back to your original layer and lock this one, and you can change the colors of the text if you need to. So you can use the direct selection tool, click on the word horror, and color it white, for example, and you can just modify your graph. Now granted, this is not the easiest way to work. You would probably use an application specifically for this purpose, like Apple's application called Keynote or something like that, that's really designed to create presentations. This could take a lot of work. As you can see here, it is taking quite a bit of work for me to even start modifying this. So I'm going to go ahead and stop here and talk about how we can actually modify the graph that we have already created. So let's say that you don't want this particular style anymore. Well, how do you change this? Well, what we can do is we can right click on the graph and we can go to data if we want to, and we can change the data we have here. We can change the words. So instead of fantasy, maybe we could put action. All right, I'll hit the check mark, and now it says action down here. All right, so we changed that. We can even, by the way, change the data as far as the numbers. So under action, we can make this, let's say 60. I'll go ahead and hit the check mark, and look how that bar just overshadows the other ones now because I changed the value. Let's go ahead and make this 15. Check mark. And we've changed that. So it's really cool. It's dynamic and you can change it any time. I can also right click again and change anything else if I want to. So I can go to the design or whatever I want to do.